It makes you realise that you're not immortal and at some point you're going to die.
My husband was diagnosed with bowel cancer when he was 33.
Just completely shake your life and shake your family.
When you hear that word, it's like, whoa,
yeah,
your whole life is ruined.
Early screening saves lives. If we had screening at 50 in England, it's thousands of lives could be saved.
Screening evidence has shown that, that more people are being picked up with either cancers or precancerous polyps in their 50s.
And that one, that's still sore, that one.
Every year, 4,500 people will be diagnosed with bowel cancer in their 50s, and Kerry was one of them.
So Trevor said, "What do you mean you found something? Are you telling me Kerry's got something wrong with her?" So the consultant said, "Yes, I'm afraid I am." So Trevor said, "Is it cancer?" And the consultant said, "Yes, I'm afraid it is."
She was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer 3 years ago at just 55 years old. And by sheer chance, after a blood test for something else, doctors found that she was living with a 9-centimetre tumour.
So I came round and that's when I reacted. The operation was on the Monday and I woke up feeling great. And by Wednesday, they were saying to me, "Oh, well, if you carry on improving like this, you'll be home at the weekend." I woke up Friday morning and I had a temperature and I was feeling sick and I wasn't very well at all, and they moved me into a side ward. It turned out they did an MRI and I had a pool of infection in my groin where the drain was, and they said that they were going to give me antibiotics, which they did. But it delayed my release from hospital by 3 weeks, so I was in hospital a month instead of 5 days. That's the point I thought, I've got cancer and I'm poorly. I didn't really accept it until that point.
She's all like padded up because she just gets so cold, but she didn't have the strength to actually walk. So that smile isn't real. That was a tough day. That was quite a tough day.
Claire's story is a little different from Kerry's. She's proof that you need more than just luck to survive. She was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer at just 55 years old and is one of the few adults her age to be offered the one-off screening programme.
So on the screen, you've got this kind of, a design of the tube, which is also your innards, and I could see this beautiful piece of coral just kind of floating. That's lovely.
Not very beautiful, it
turns out. Not very beautiful, it turns out. It didn't occur to me that was the cancerous growth.
Doctors believed that Claire had been living with her cancer 5 years prior to her diagnosis, and due to the size of the tumour, Claire needed to be operated on straight away.
It was a big operation, and then it turned out that it had gone through, and so they then gave me a hysterectomy as well, which they hadn't mentioned. And that's the only hiccup in the whole thing.
It basically gone through, and I think they just made the decision that it was better for
it needed to go, because at that stage
it had spread.
It had spread.
Claire is now having to go through a series of chemotherapy as part of her ongoing treatment.
But I have a portacath, so I have this baby bottle.
Yeah. And that's the chemo.
And this is the chemo.
When you had the chemo, obviously it doesn't matter now, but you weren't allowed to be in the sun, because when you first started it was hot. It was that really hot time, and you weren't allowed to be in the sun because the skin would have been thin and sensitive.
And I think that will carry on, but it could be permanent. It's certainly permanent at the moment, and it could be permanent for life. So that's why they've stopped that just for this final dose. I haven't had one of the chemotherapy drugs because they're just saying they're nerve damage. They don't want to add more onto it.
Lauren's mum was just 56 when she died of bowel cancer. It's been 3 years since her mum passed away, and Lauren's using her memory as a campaign to change the screening age in England.
41,000 people are diagnosed with bowel cancer every year. 16,000 people die of bowel cancer every year.
Lauren started a Change.org petition in 2015, pleading for Jeremy Hunt to bring down the age of screening in England in line with Scotland's. And ever since, it's been going from strength to strength.
If my mum had had that screening available to her, she'd probably still be alive. Because she wouldn't have had that just once, she would have had it 3 times before she was actually diagnosed. When I first set up the petition, I honestly never imagined that it would have the kind of impact that it has. And I think it's really important to get people talking about it. Obviously, I'm passionate about getting the screening age reduced to 50, and I don't intend to stop until I have. But actually, it is about creating awareness too and making people realise that it's not embarrassing.
We're done. Ben's dad has made sure that everybody's back safe and sound.
And one fundraising event is doing just that. The Cheeky Santa Dash is held every year in Preston, and the meaning behind the run is really bringing people together.
We've got 2 more Nordic walkers coming in.
My husband was diagnosed with bowel cancer when he was 33 and was given a 6 to 12 month prognosis actually the following year. Around that time, treatments hadn't worked and surgeries hadn't worked, but he started a new drug and decided that he was going to run the marathon that he'd been training for. He ended up running 6 in 6 months and then carried on doing it and eventually did 24 in 24 months.
Together, Louise and her husband Ben organised the run to involve the community on the issue of early bowel cancer diagnosis. It's been running for 4 years, and the charity Beating Bowel Cancer are greatly supporting it for the impact it has brought on everyone who takes part.
The joy of this event is that it's not about whether you can run it or walk it or how fast or slow you are. It's just about coming and participating and of course wearing the cheeky bum shorts and getting the message out there about discussing bowel habits and how important that is and how life-saving that can be.
The event even attracts high-profile support too.
My father died from bowel cancer in '97. My grandfather died from bowel cancer. He actually was diagnosed in his 20s, but he got on to his late 60s. And the people who are beating bowel cancer are really on the money. Bowel cancer is the 2nd biggest cancer killer in the UK. Early screening saves lives. If we had screening at 50 in England, it's thousands of lives could be saved. And the costs long-term for the NHS, it's a cost-saving exercise. You treat people earlier, you have a much higher chance of recovery. The costs for the NHS are kept down. The cost of treatments are extremely high.
However, there are downfalls for changing the screening.
The younger you will be screening people, the more cases you would pick up. But the younger you screen people, the you get fewer returns for your money, basically. And there is a financial ceiling as to at what point people draw the line when they say it's not worth doing screening because the amount you pick up. You just see at the bottom of the picture a little lump developing on a stalk, which is a polyp, which if left can then grow, which is when we would be concerned that it's turned into a cancer.
The NHS says more people need to participate in the current screening before it can justify spending additional funds on extending the programme to younger people. There are also concerns that the current test isn't effective.
The problem we have is people don't like messing around in their own poo and posting it off to the hub, and so about 50% of people don't respond. And then it misses about 50% of the cancers.
Beating Bowel Cancer wants a new test to be implemented. The FIT test only requires 1 stool sample from participants, and the simplicity of the test and less poking around, as Dr. Pay said, will encourage more people to take part.
There is an increasing number of people in their 50s who are developing bowel cancer, and whilst the majority of people with bowel cancer who are diagnosed with bowel cancer are of an older age, sort of into the 60s and 70s, we do see more people now in their 50s. And some of the screening evidence has shown that, that more people are being picked up with either cancers or precancerous polyps in their 50s. So we feel really that the age for screening should come down to capture those people and to stop people being diagnosed in their 50s.
A simple poo test and it could save your life. So, all right, it has a cost to the NHS, but so does having cancer.
It doesn't make sense to be not allowing people to have the screening, especially when actually it is more cost effective as well. The NHS would save money, it would save lives, it makes total sense.
It's a no-brainer. Screening at 50.